All right, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Greetings. Hey, hey. Hold on one second. My God, man. My God. Oh, no. Thought I got rid of this. Okay, there we go. Oh, it's a little less. All right. Anyways, greetings. Welcome back to Black Bear News, where everything is connected. Because you can hear it. Oh, there we go. It disappeared. Awesome. I do know I did get verification yesterday that the crackling that you hear on my microphone is not from my stuff. I think it's a StreamYard thing. So I had suspected that it was a StreamYard thing. And I was listening to another podcast who was doing their show on StreamYard, and they had the exact same crackle sound. So sometimes it's not necessarily always your equipment. Sometimes it can be StreamYard. I think StreamYard is the reason why my sound keeps going up and down. If you guys are hearing the volume go up and down, that is not me. Right now, it just happened right now. Right, I was nice and clear and loud, and then it went. I think that's a StreamYard thing too. So if you hear that happening and it's a little annoying, I can't control it. I'm sorry. I apologize. But the crackling, for the most part, seems to be gone, which is great. Anyways, we're live on Callin, Rockfin, and on YouTube. And thanks for hanging out with me today and every day on the interwebs, guys. Thank you. Rockfinners, I see you. Hello, Rockfinners. Thanks for the link, Denver. That's very interesting. Very interesting. I don't know. Some comptroller in New York is freezing deposits at two major banks because they are not submitting required policies to weed out discrimination. Okay. Huh. Okay. Following its first ever public hearing, the commission also voted to prohibit three other banks from accepting city money because they too had failed to supply anti-discrimination policies in writing. International Finance Bank, PNC Bank, Wells Fargo, like pretty big banks. I mean, okay. Okay. I mean, I guess we could call it a woke agenda. I mean, it'd be nice if they would go after these banks for committing crimes, right? Like financial crimes, laundering money, maybe for hiding their involvement with, say, people like Jeffrey Epstein, for funding discriminatory, housing practices, lending, all kinds of stuff. But I don't, for funding fossil fuel projects, for funding, all kinds of things which might be hurtful to people, damaging to people. Funding anti-union activities. There's many things that could go after them. I mean, I actually agree that banks should be held accountable for discrimination if their practices are discriminatory. I mean, that's against the law, right? That's illegal to do that. And I guess you could so further you could say, well, just like censoring on social media, right? There are already laws against certain kinds of activity, certain kinds of speech. So if somebody's really doing something hateful or hurtful, well, then just apply the law to them. Right? If a bank is actually doing something hateful or hurtful or discriminatory, just apply the law to them. Take them to court for, But coming down on them for not having like a policy written out, I mean, that seems almost ridiculous, right? Because, it says in our policy that we are equity and we don't, right? So that's a good cover. Well, we just said we're not discriminatory. That's a good cover for continuing discriminatory practices, which is probably what this is all about. Anyways. Schulte says, I just heard YT is giving content providers problems for supporting RFK. Huh. I expect something called election interference coming soon. Yep. It doesn't surprise me, Schulte, at all. Not one bit. I will continue to support RFK on this channel, or at least, for as long as I possibly can, I guess. I don't know how hard they're going to come down on that, but I am going to, as much as possible, give support to RFK and the things he's saying, because I think it's important. And I'm going to give coverage to his campaign. So I'll continue to do that. But that'll be interesting to see how that plays out. All right. So much to cover today, as usual. Denver also asks about to engage in practices that lose money. Well, yeah, and you're also seeing. Who was it recently that just some large financial entity just gave up? I think it was climate change policies. Was it BlackRock? Was it someone else? Vanguard? Some company said they were giving up, I guess climate change policies because it was bad for business. Right? And so that's all. Christian Sorensen, what's the hot take on Marianne Williamson? I don't really. I mean, she's okay. She's all right. I'm not against her views in general. I think she's not very serious. And at the end of the day, she already ran a race, and at the end of the day, she rolled over for Joe Biden. And she rolled over for the Democrats. And so, hard to take her seriously. But I do appreciate some of the things that she's saying. I actually agree with quite a bit of the things she says. So, Gene says, my take is people in power will choose who they want to win, and it won't matter one way or another. Probably that's the most correct take. All right. I'm definitely not going to cover everything that I have in my queue today, but I'm just going to do what I can. I mean, I think some of the things RFK is saying are pretty radical. Even radical, more radical than Bernie Sanders. Is that I am also seeing that people like Elon Musk and others seem to be taking on, and I don't know yet. I don't have enough information on whether I can apply this to RFK Jr. or not, but I see people who are out there doing a whole truther, kind of swerve to the truther side, like Elon Musk is doing, right? To the libertarian, truth will be revealed. We're going to expose the elites and what they're doing for what it, I see a big swerve towards that by people, very prominent people that might have ulterior motives, right? And this might be the new game. And some people are like, yeah, duh. I'm sure, some people are very, very certain of that. But this might be the new game, which is present yourself as, a truth teller, anti-elite, anti-establishment. But really, the whole time you're kind of working with them, you're actually working to promote their things. I mean, not unlike the fossil fuel companies. Not unlike, the entities that completely support fossil fuels and how fossil fuels run, civilization as we know it. They completely, they know that. Fossil fuel companies know that. All the countries of the world know that. But they're doing a whole greenwashing agenda, right? We care about climate change. This is what we can do. We're looking for alternative sources of energy. We are, we are change. We are Exxon, blah, 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 right? They're doing this whole thing. They're putting forward this whole, like, we care about the planet kind of thing. And it's just all astroturfing and greenwashing, right? So is this new, very prominent people doing a woke, the other woke, there's woke and then there's the other woke, right? There's the woke, the PC woke, and then there's the woke, like, I see you. I see what you're doing, woke. There's people doing the woke. I'm woke now, right? I see the truth. I see what the elite are doing. I see what the conspiracy. I see what the WEF is doing. I see all that. They're doing a whole woke thing, but really, actually, they're completely in bed with the elites and completely pushing, in the end, their agenda. I don't know. Coffee? Do I need coffee, or have I had too much coffee? Is that what you're saying, Schulte? Anyways. Do I think that RFK is in that club? I don't know yet. Post from Children's Health Defense. This is a catastrophic loss for water protections across the country and a win for big polluters, putting our communities, public health, and local ecosystems in danger. So, right, the government who's supposed to be pushing a climate change agenda is actually going anti-ecosystem. Wow, whoa, what a big surprise, right? I mean, supposedly they're funding this whole climate change agenda, and whatever. They are wearing the mantle of we care for the climate, and we're Democrats, and especially we care for the climate, and yet allowing. It's interesting that all these things are happening under Biden. These very right-wing decisions are being made and happening under Biden. It's very interesting. Big win for polluters. U.S. Supreme Court delivers blow to wetlands protections. Thursday's decision in Sackett versus the U.S. Environmental Protection Agency dramatically narrows which wetlands are covered by the Clean Water Act. And the U.S. Supreme Court on Thursday severely curtailed protections for waters of the United States. So, there's that. I do find this an interesting, all the people that are, all the lefters, even climate changers, even climate change believers. We are climate change believers here. I'm just saying that to be silly. But the people who understand climate science are super big into masks and the science around protecting yourself from COVID. But these masks are doing terrible. The proliferation of masks and mask wearing and medical gear is destroying, look what it's doing to the planet. It's just more junk. Look at what they've done to us. And, there's rubber gloves and, medical accoutrements, the rubber gloves and the masks and all the things and the things and the things and the things all going into, not all going into the landfill. Some going into sewer systems, some, being washed out into the ocean. Absolutely, it's still happening. Still happening. And fairly disgusting, right? I mean, it's like, man, this climate change is going to be bad. We're going to need a lot of air conditioners because, we're going to have to save humans for as long as possible until the power goes out. So everybody get your air conditioner. That's, we're just, there's a disconnect in the thinking. There's a disconnect in the thinking. Even if, I will be jumping off YouTube eventually and going to Rockfin because I want to talk about some other things that I don't want YouTube to be upset about. Because obviously, if you have to censor something that somebody's talking about, well, then it must be true. Right? If you're so sure of your truth about something and that you have to censor people saying something different about it, well, then it obviously is true. And then this is why I also have I have a problem with climate change aware people saying stuff like settled science or, this is rock solid. You can't question this. Well, you're not endearing yourself to anybody. You're not making your case very well. Just bring the science. Bring the science to the table and bring the argument and keep going. Let's look. This is a good article, and I'm going to read some of this. How big oil is manipulating the way you think about climate change. And this is, I already read this, and it's kind of cool. Some good points in here. Again, it's hard to agree with everything somebody has to write in these articles here. But we'll try. How big oil is manipulating the way you think about climate change. A logic professor, Professor Logic, explains how a persistent, subtle fallacy has infected public discussion of climate change. We'll look at this because this might, there's some good points. There's also maybe some things to pick apart. In medieval times, gamekeepers trained dogs to the hunt by setting them on a trail of it. They explain where red herring came from. They set them on the trail of a dead rabbit they had dragged through the forest. Once the dogs were baying along the rabbit's scent, the gamekeeper ran across the trail ahead of them, dragging a gunny sack of red herrings. Red herrings are smoked fish that have been aged to a ruddy, stinking ripeness. If any dog veered off to follow the stench of the red herrings, the gamekeeper beat him with a stick. That sounds like violence to me. Thus did dogs learn not to be lured into barking up the wrong tree. This practice became the namesake of one of the best-known types of fallacies, the red herring fallacy. As a philosophy professor, this is how I explain the fallacy to my students. If the argument is not going your opponent's way, or if the argument is not going your opponent's way, a common strategy through a fallacious and dishonorable one is to divert attention from the real issue by raising an issue that is only tangentially related to the first. I can't speak, I promise. If our collective philosophical literacy were better, we might notice that this fallacy seems to be working spectacularly well for the fossil fuel industry, the petrochemical industry, and a bunch of other bad actors who would like to throw us off the trail that would lead us to fully grasp their transgressions. We shouldn't keep falling for it. I'm going to expound on this a little after I read it, or later in the show. I don't know. But we do. Time after time, the real issue stands before us. And we find ourselves baying after some side issues of far less importance. I quiz my students, explain, give examples. Here's one. 38 rail cars filled with vinyl chloride derailed. This is a great... I have already made this point on the show, and I love this particular paragraph. 38 rail cars filled with vinyl chloride derailed and caught fire in East Palestine, Ohio. Vinyl chloride, a flammable petroleum product, is a potent carcinogen. When it is burned, it creates dioxin, another nasty carcinogen that now permeates the town. A familiar pattern followed. Lamentations over the derailing, a cascade of reporters, a debate in Congress. Finally, politicians, commentators, and outraged citizens all pose these questions. How will we punish the railroads, and how can we make railroads safer? And whose fault is it? And who voted for Trump? And who voted for all this? Whose fault is this? Those are the wrong questions. What I want to know is why would any sensible people allow the U.S. petrochemical industry annually to produce 7.2 million metric tons of poison that causes liver, lung, brain cancer, and to distribute it as polyvinyl chloride in water pipes, gutters, rubber duckies, and My Little Pony dolls? This is actually beautiful. This is actually beautiful. That is a perfect point. Why are we even trucking this stuff across the country? Why are we using this? It's extremely toxic. It's like a point made in a movie. I won't get sidetracked on this, but How to Get Ahead in Advertising. Anybody ever seen that movie? It's a wonderful, wonderful movie, one of the best ever, and it's about It's just about the ugliness of the advertising industry and how it serves all the corporations and what they actually do to you. But anyways, the polyvinyl chloride should not even be something that we use in everyday products. It shouldn't be something that's manufactured, made, transported, touched. Stay far away. Extreme danger to your health. Do not ingest, do not inhale, do not come in contact. It should be, labeled a, extremely dangerous toxin and should never be, should be put away and never be touched again, right? That's how we should treat it. But we are industrial civilization and we need these things. Well, of course we need these things, and we're consumers and we want the best, there's a million reasons why we should allow this to go on, but just, regulate it better or contain it better or build better safety structures around it, or, that's what we do. Instead of saying this thing shouldn't even be in existence. We shouldn't even be using this. Nobody should be using this. Nobody should be allowed to manufacture or make this or use this. That's real and a beautiful point. Another surprising example in an effort to reduce the town's use of fossil fuels, the city of Eugene, Oregon, prohibited natural gas infrastructure in a new residential construction. These types of prohibitions prompted a similar brand of hand-wringing, the question being posed in op-eds and comments sections running along the lines of, how can anyone ask us to sacrifice our gas stoves just to cut carbon emissions, right? That's the wrong question. What I want to know is what sacrifices we are already making to support a fossil fuel industry that earned $4 trillion in global profits last year, an industry whose control over us extends even how we cook bacon and eggs. As ecologist Carl Safina said, we are sacrificing our money, sacrificing what is big and permanent to prolong what is small, temporary, and harmful. We're sacrificing animals, peace, and children to retain wastefulness while enriching those who disdain us. Oh, the real question isn't one of sacrificing gas stoves. It is this: how can we free ourselves from the fossil fuel industry's iron grip, even in our homes? Yeah. These are great questions, and this is why mostly like this article. Another example of the subterfuge, also from the fossil fuel world, is the idea of carbon sequestration. Again, how can we capture the carbon dioxide that is spewing into the atmosphere, embed it in concrete blocks? Engineers propose pipe it into underground caverns, store it in algae blooms or marshes or timber frame skyscrapers. Obviously, we need to remove excess carbon dioxide from the air if we want Earth to remain habitable. But the best, fastest way to reduce the carbon dioxide load of the atmosphere is to stop burning fossil fuels, not to spend billions of dollars developing an entire new industry devoted to sequestering carbon in all kinds of complicated ways. Close down the coal plants, phase out oil and gas drilling, get those brilliant engineers back on track, addressing the real question of how are we going to stop oil and gas drilling, and soon. Brilliant, beautiful, lovely. This is, going well. And here's a big one. For years, climate concerned people have assiduously used some sort of climate footprint calculator to figure out how many tons of carbon dioxide they emit annually because of their lifestyle, and accordingly, how much blame they shoulder personally for climate change. What they probably don't know is that the idea of a carbon footprint calculator was first invented by the geniuses at British Petroleum, not to encourage conservation, but to focus consumers' attention on their own emissions and distract their attention from the incomparably greater emissions of the industry itself. Yet, it is one point I slightly disagree on, but that's okay. Yet asking how you individually can calculate and reduce your carbon footprint is very much asking the wrong question. I don't want to know what I can do to reduce my emissions. My estimated, 0.00005% of the world's annual greenhouse gas emissions. I want to know what big oil is going to do to phase out the 73% of the greenhouse gas emissions that they empower. 73%? It's called 100%. Person that wrote this article. Sorry, they have a name. Kathleen Dean Moore. It's called 100%. 100%. I know we can quibble about the percentage, but which was why 37 billion 190 million metric tons of CO2 in 2021. That's what it was. Of course, the fossil fuel industry would rather send me nosing into the compost in my backyard than sniffing under the closed doors of political deal making that props up the hegemony of the fossil fuel economy. I mean, this is also a good point. Yes, I do agree. I don't know. Right? We I think it's a good idea to concentrate on your own footprint while also recognizing that we have to hold, the bigger players responsible as well. And also people that don't want to, we have to hold very wealthy people who don't give a toss about their carbon footprint, or might say they do, or really care about climate change, or, blah, 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 but own, all the things that emissions could possibly supply you with. We have to hold them accountable too. So I think it's a group effort. So I will I will diverge from my support on this particular point just because I think it's all the way up and down the chain. Which leads me to my last example, the next United Nations Climate Change Conference, the world's global gathering to solve the climate crisis, known this year by its shorthand COP28, will, like all previous COP conferences, involve endless debates over how to compensate countries for the harm climate change is doing, how to fund dikes and levees to prevent seawater inundation into croplands, and how to feed and house a projected billion climate refugees. Bless the dikes and foodstuffs. But note, those questions are important now only because we have for decades allowed ourselves to be distracted from one big bloody question, which is how quickly and completely can the world transition from a burn-it-all-down fossil fuel economy and replace it with an economy of restraint and renewal. The best way to defend against a red herring fallacy, I tell my students, is to call it out by its name. Oops, that's a red herring, a question that is intended to distract us from the central issue, and then to restate the central issue. Let us focus full attention on the real issue here, which is how can we stop the fossil fuel industry from destroying the life-sustaining systems of the planet in their seemingly endless and certainly shameless quest for profit. You have to be alert and have to be smart, I tell my students, because the people who would deceive you are sophisticated professionals, but the pros are making a serious mistake, and that is to assume that the average American is not much smarter than a Cocker Spaniel, and so can easily be misled. The work ahead is to prove them wrong. All right, I rather liked that article. I don't know about you. I hope you enjoyed it. And I don't know. This goes on into I don't know. I kind of had the idea that I wanted to talk about the something I talk about maybe way too much, which is the disconnect between the two thought silos, which is, people who believe in climate change are like, trust the science and everything about, but are kind of confused about what it is the other side is upset about regarding science. And then there's the side that thinks that climate change is a hoax are also confused about science on some levels. So, anyways, we are in the age of great confusion, the great confusion. And it's hard to not be confused. I get it. There's a lot going on. There's a lot of information out there. It's hard to know who to trust. It's hard to know who's giving you the straight dope, if you will. Give it to me straight, see? Give me the straight dope. But anyways, somebody says, people who are climate change communicators, they really are being sought after for commentary by a lot of people who think that it's a hoax. And this is, part of the great confusion that's going on. Somebody says to Steve Austin, Bionic Man, how is it effective to demonstrate your unpopularity by having tens of thousands booing you? And he replied, you know what today's Just Stop Oil rugby protest did? Smoked out assholes who would have been okay with this, right? I mean, he's basically saying, people who believe climate change is a hoax are racist or fascists or I don't know. There are a lot of things going on there. For one thing, there are a lot of people who actually believe climate change is a hoax. Why? Because it's very fashionable. I also believe that there are people who are paid operatives of the fossil fuel industry, which is the biggest industry on the planet. Don't get it twisted. It's the biggest of the octopuses out there. It's the head octopus. And what does the head octopus want to do? Keep living. Keep controlling everything. Have you be confused about whether climate change is real or not. And they're doing a really good job of it. And some people are doing their work for them for free, which is I wouldn't call that a very honorable place to be. But there are people that are, paid disinformationers. And there are people that find it fashionable, they believe it because this is a very, at the beginning of the show, I was talking about how there are people that are wearing the cloak of telling the truth, right? Or being aligned with the people that are, we're fighting for the truth and we're uncovering what the elites are doing, blah, 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 blah. Maybe they are. And I like to trust that most people that are doing that work are doing it out of sincerity. And I believe that a lot are, but I believe that some people are wearing the cloak of telling the truth in order to further confuse you, right? And so many of the people that, on the side of uncovering what the elites are doing, I don't know what you want to call them, alternative journalists, truthers, whatever, they all parrot the same thing, that climate change is not real. They all do it, with the exception of a very small few. And so this is leading to great confusion. This is what is, people are mad, rightly so, that the people in charge are doing nefarious things, in the name of safety or caring for you or caring for the planet. They're mad that they're doing these things for nefarious reasons, and I understand that. But at the same time, what these communicators of the truth are doing are also communicating something that's false about what's going on the planet, and that really sucks. I am here to bridge that gap. I am here to try to tell you or dispense some truth about what's going on. That is my aim and my goal, and it makes me incredibly unpopular, right? Because if I was just about climate change and going like, what are we doing to the planet, I'd be way more popular, because all the people that were be into climate change would be like, right on, yes, I'm behind you, yeah, go ahead. But when I go to the other side and say like, well, but you're also being lied to about this, they're like, what are you talking about? That's conspiracy theory. Okay. I think that people who understand climate change are missing kind of a a very deep truth about what it is, what they're involved in or concerned about, right? Because people that are interested in climate change and understand that we are screwing the planet understand that they know this through the medium of science, right? We're clear on that, right? They know that through the medium of science and data and evidence. But somehow they miss that the reason that the earth is being screwed is because of science and technology, right? Some people get that. Some people understand that, right? We are a techno-capitalist industrial civilization, and we're destroying the planet through what? Kind of through science, aren't we? Right? Because you can't have technology without science. You can't have the manipulation of the natural world without science. So just because you believe in the science of climate change, you have to be very careful about the other science that you believe in, right? You have to be aware that science can be very destructive, can be used in very nefarious ways, right? And I think most people understand that. But yet, when the media tells you, which is owned by the corporations, tells you about this, the science of, medicine, it's science. Yeah, it's totally science. What are you talking about? Yeah, no, you don't think that maybe that science is also manipulated too? It's like beyond their comprehension. It's a conspiracy theory. That maybe the science they're being told about on TV or by, the people that run the joint, that maybe that science is being used in nefarious ways as well, right? And maybe the real science and data and evidence that is trying to be promoted by actual doctors who care about people, right, or care about truth, like maybe they're trying to get to the real science, which is what climate change aware people, I think, are trying to get in touch with the real science of what we're doing to the planet and why it's happening, why the manipulation of science and technology is destroying that really should be a very core understanding of people, climate change aware people, that science and technology is effing the planet. And the people that are promoting more science and technology in order to fix this, the effects of science and technology, are on the wrong path, right? That's the whole thing behind like deep green resistance. The whole thing behind, uncovering greenwashing and the lies around, hey, let's have some more renewable energy. Let's have some more technology to help fix this thing that technology is created, right? So, you got that? You got that? Y'all understand that? So, it's like the same side of the coin. People who believe in climate change or believe that we're destroying the planet are on the same side of the coin as the people that are trying to tell you the truth about what the people in charge are trying to do to you. Same side of the coin, but somehow we're disconnected. Somehow they're disconnected. The truthers don't understand that, climate change people are actually on the same side, right? On the same side, trying to get, away from evil, destructive, manipulative technology and being over controlled and authoritarian, right? And trying to get, a little more in touch with the earth and nature and natural systems. And, the people on the side of the truth are all kind of trying to do the same thing and say the same thing. But I really wish that climate change communicators could understand that a little better. There are some out there that do. Jem Bendell is a very good example. An excellent example of people that understand that divide and are trying to. Paul Kingsnorth also understands that divide too. If you guys follow Paul Kingsnorth, he understands what is going on in that whole divided silo kind of situation. So I wish that more people out there could stop, dividing people along these lines that are actually, you're on the same side. You're creating a false division, and it's frustrating. It's really, really frustrating. It's frustrating because I see climate change communicators out there being attacked by people who y'all should be on the same side, and calling them conspiracy theorists and nuts and whatnot. And then all the other people that are calling, people who are concerned about climate change, calling them, I don't know what. It's whatever. It's whatever I just said. That's what I mean. It's not whatever. It's whatever I just said. But it's a serious issue. And somebody was talking to me on Twitter. I was saying something about the Kufa today on Twitter, and somebody was like, "I used to follow your channel when you were more into science." I was like, "Which science are you talking about, sir?" Anyways, let's keep going. But there is something about right. So I saw this article. The reason why I said all that is because there's this big article in CNN about meteorologists and criminals, murderers and criminals. Meteorologists face unprecedented harassment from conspiracy theorists, and this is bad. This is a bad situation. I mean, they're trying to ramp up this idea that the people who are, I don't know, this is going to create a further divide, right? They're going to, I don't know if this is going to be, you can't really shut down climate change deniers or skeptics. You can't really shut them down, right? Because it actually plays into the hand of the fossil fuel companies, right? And that's why you actually don't see people, you don't see climate skeptics and deniers actually really censored. It's not really a thing. If somebody's seen a direct case of somebody being censored for climate denial or climate skepticism, please let me know. But I don't see it. In fact, I never see it. The reason why you never see that is because it plays into the hand of the fossil fuel companies. Because they've funded that skepticism, and Andre says meteorologists have a federal gag order not to discuss climate change. Really? Is that true? I didn't know that. Anyways. But, they're saying, they're being harassed by, conspiracy theorists. And I just explained the entire, situation. There's a reason why they're being harassed, which isn't a great one. But it's unfortunate because you can't actually, the people in charge don't really want to allow you to have real discussions about what's going on in climate change either, right? You can't. You can't really have real honest discussions about what's really going on with climate change and how bad really is it. Obsolete optics. It's climate engineering that they're not allowed to discuss. Right. Right, and it actually gets into this. uh, in Spain's case, much of the trolling revolves around the rehashing of an old conspiracy theory called chemtrails, and this is where I won't go too deep into it, but really. So this is very. I think this article is mainly geared at trying to tell you how crazy it is to think about chemtrails. But anyways, the very thing that they discuss all the time about, well, we're going to test it out. We're going to see if we can, what? We're going to see if we can block the sun and put up some, put some stuff in the sky. We're working on it. We're testing it out. But the idea that it's happening, super loony. The idea that it's happening already, crazy. Okay. Oh shoot. Anyways, under many of the agency's Twitter posts, especially those that refer to more extreme weather, users have posted images of blue skies crisscrossed with wispy white trails. They falsely claim that the trails contain a cocktail of chemicals to artificially manipulate the weather, keeping rain away and causing climate change. It's a theory roundly rejected by scientists. Well, that's it. This article just, dispelled a whole theory just because they said it was roundly rejected. Okay. Airplanes do release vapor trails called contrails. No. Really? Short for con. Anyways, but scientists have been clear. There's no evidence that chemtrails exist. I mean, I think this article just does more to confuse people than anything, right? They just get it even more twisted. Yeah, it's conspiracy theorists. They're into these things called chemtrails, and we know those things are fake. All right. In France, meteorologists have been accused of exaggerating the country's drought and heat. Climate misinformation on social media is particularly widespread, he said. It seems to be on the rise, both in terms of the number of attacks directed against scientific publications, but also the increasingly aggressive tone of the insults. In the UK, meteorologists reported unprecedented levels of online harassment during last year's record-breaking heat wave, which led to the first ever red warning for heat. As scientists communicated this information, they were accused of instigating a nanny state hysteria. Liz Bentley, the chief executive of the Royal Meteorological Society, told CNN. Anyways. An erosion of trust. Some disinformation experts draw a straight line from conspiracies that flourished during the COVID pandemic. See, this is the thing. When experts faced a slew of abuse, this is what it is. They're actually they're giving you the most terrible version of the thing that I just described a few minutes ago. The idea that you can conflate these things and it's all the same and all the same parameters and it's all, only the experts know. Just listen to the experts. That's all you can do. And if you have anything to say against the experts, you are a bad person, probably racist. Okay. None of this is helping people understand what's really going on in the world. And it's a reason why, RFK is being so highly suppressed and other people are being so highly suppressed. I got a super chat from Rich Diana. Thank you, Rich. Kevin, what's the wildfire season looking like in your area? Good luck. Thank you. Not much right now. Actually, Rich, we're having a very cool winter. Extremely cool winter. The weather is all wacky right now. So a blessedly, did I say winter? Summer. We're having a winter in summer. Uh, at least one of the coolest starts of summer I've ever experienced. Um, but at the same time, who was I talking to yesterday? I was talking to somebody from Chicago yesterday. Sorry, tangent, sidetrack. I was talking to somebody from Chicago, and they said we had an awesome winter. It hardly snowed. Hardly snowed at all. I was like, that's not, I mean, that's awesome, sure, but that's not normal. That's not usual. A winter in Chicago without snow? That means something is very, very wrong, right? And so they had a winter with no snow. We had a really, an incredibly crazy winter with so much snow, like quadruple the snow that we've ever had, or that's normal. And it's still chilly, overcast, cloudy, cool, very, very cool here. It is. I don't know, but I'm fine with it because summers here can be kind of brutal. So I'm hoping it lasts just a little bit longer because I'm not looking forward to like the super heat. Man, we're already here. We are at the end of the show already. Um, there is an erosion of trust, and that erosion of trust is well deserved. Well deserved because people. It's clear that people have been lied to on a major level around so many things, and so why wouldn't they? That's the issue. Is like, you know, why wouldn't they be distrustful of climate science or climate? People commenting on climate change. Why wouldn't they? Now that's not, it's not based on data and evidence, and that's the problem, and that's going to lead to more confusion and more pain and suffering for people. That's a problem. But we're getting, disinformation, misinformation from all sides, and it is unfortunate. Tim says eroded trust to a clown show. Yeah. All right, real quick, I'm gonna break and tell you that the best ways to support the show are Venmo at Kevin Sandbloom, Cash App at Red Llama Music, buymeacoffee.com at Black Bear News. You can also super chat me or super ray me on Rockfin. Super do ray me. You can follow me at Twitter at Black Bear News, the number 1. I mean, though, Rich Diana says major heat wave for the next week here. Really? Oh, shoot. Going south. I actually forgot about that. Is it now or soon? Shoot. I'm going to email you in a second, okay? All right. Anyways, well, I have reached the end of my time, and I did a little more pontificating and ranting than I did covering of news. But we'll get to some of these other stories, possibly tomorrow, or maybe Tuesday, maybe tomorrow. Tomorrow's a holiday in the U.S. It's Memorial Day, so it's a good chance I won't be here tomorrow. So I probably will see you guys Tuesday. And Tuesday at the regular time of 12 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. And y'all enjoy yourselves and have a good holiday or whatever you're doing tomorrow. And until next time, peace.